Hi, I'm Cecilia Buerkle. I am the Public Relations Director for the Mexico Pavilion at EXPO 2020 in Dubai. I'm also a creative consultant, strategy consultant, and a freelance PR agent. So, what is one of the most important skills that I mastered? Once upon a time, I was a theater nerd growing up, and I took some improv classes. And one of my most helpful takeaways from that is that you have to be a yes and person. So, a rule of improv is that when someone says something, you say yes and you build on it. And I think having that attitude in life also just brings you into situations where you meet people that you wouldn't necessarily meet otherwise, pushes you out of your comfort zone as well, and leads to what I like to call as happy accidents. I am a firm believer that life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. And a big indicator of someone's character is how they roll with the punches and how they're able to apply this yes and attitude to life. I think we need to be really honest with ourselves about what is our comfort zone and then how we actually push ourselves out of that. Because, at least in my own personal experience, some of my best life lessons, my best growth experiences have been precisely in this space of discomfort. This is the fifth country I've lived in, currently in Dubai in the UAE. And I think that, again, the space of when you're uncomfortable and a little bit too uneasy is when you really have to ask yourself what's next in life, and you grow the most as a person.
I saw your video. I loved it. Do you have any questions for me?
I would love for you to tell me a little bit more about. So I'm actually uh, at a point where some of the things that you talk about in your books I identify with. Um,
Hmm.
Basically, at this professional, what do you call it, like pivot point. So I went back and got my master's, just finished at the end of the summer. And I'm essentially a creative person who kind of fell into business by accident. Studied comparative
Hmm.
literature in college. I know you were an English major, and then
Hmm.
accidentally ended up in an investment bank. And so I fell into this routine of kind of going through the motions of checking boxes for everyone else and not actually doing something that was fulfilling. And I know that's something you talk about as well. And I had what I call my quarter life crisis a couple of years ago, where I was like, I don't want to wake up when I'm later in life and feel that I squandered just that sense of fulfillment was really important for me. So I went back to school. Currently, I am the PR director for the Mexican Pavilion at EXPO, which is ending in about 3 weeks. And I'm trying to figure out what my next step is. And I think part of what was such a challenge for me when I was deciding to go back to school was this ego aspect of starting over at 30 and taking some steps back professionally. And like, I know that you took a break from your career at a certain point. So if you have any advice on how to, best position myself or how to make that change, that would be super helpful.
Okay, well, first of all, I didn't take a break. I was fired. And
I
then I was like, I couldn't find a job for a year. And I then looked for a job outside of what I really wanted to do, my expertise, and got one. And then I couldn't take it because I knew I wouldn't like it. And so I took a huge step back. So if there's something that you love or you want to try, don't be afraid to like start at the beginning. I think when we get into our 30s and our 40s, we think we're supposed to be at a certain level. At 40 years old, I took a job that 15 years before I would have scoffed at. And it actually put me in the right place at the right time when Morning Joe started.
okay.
So who would have thought, right? Um, and also taking a step back really allows you to spread your wings because you're much more confident when you're doing something you know how to do, okay, or you're overqualified for. So don't be afraid to take a step back to get into something else, to go sideways or even backwards. And again, as I told everybody, you have a much longer runway than you ever imagined. So you have a long time. You haven't squandered time. You're fine. So just don't be afraid to kind of go sideways, diagonally, try something completely different, and start at the very bottom.